All right, somebody else who should join me watching Kid Rock on Inauguration Day is our own Chuck Holton, veteran Army Ranger, war correspondent for us. Chuck, you're going to be watching Kid Rock with us.
Yeah, well, I won't be watching from Cheesecake Factory, I'll tell you that.
No, you won't. Isn't that the truth? And it's a shame, too, because I actually like Cheesecake Factory, but I'm not going in there without my firearm.
Good food, but I won't eat somewhere that won't let me protect myself. If I have to give up my Second Amendment rights, then you can keep your business and keep your food.
Well, that's why you're a buddy of mine, Chuck. All right, so, hey, I brought you on to talk about Mosul. You're just back from there, I don't know, a few weeks ago. It's a nightmare. It's a mess. We've talked about it. You've shown it with the video. When is this thing ever going to end?
You know, it's getting worse. We're 10 weeks into this battle. They expected it might take a month or two to finish the battle and drive ISIS out of Mosul, which was once the second largest city in all of Mesopotamia. They're less than 25% of the city secured at this point. And ISIS, with 5,000 fighters. Now, you got to understand, Grant, the Iraqi army, after having received training from the U.S. military for something like 12 or 13 years, has been pushing into Mosul with about 100,000 troops. That doesn't even count the number of Peshmerga that are going in there and as well, and that sort of thing. And in 10 weeks, they've only managed to secure about 1/4 of the city, going up against only 5,000 ISIS troops. Now, granted, these ISIS troops are very well armed because they have a whole lot of U.S. weapons and equipment that was left there by the Iraqi army when they dropped everything and ran back in 2014. So the Iraqi army calls this operation "We Are Coming." Now, what they should have called it was Operation Retake What We Ran Away From 2 years ago. But maybe that wouldn't have looked as good on the operation reports.
So, Chuck, is it just a failure on the Iraqi army's part? Because when you look at, like, Aleppo, and the Russians go in there and take it in, what, a couple of days, where Barack Obama said there's no military solution to Aleppo. If the army can take Aleppo, a Russian army, why can't the Iraqi army just go in and take Mosul?
Well, the Iraqi army is fighting Stalingrad. They're fighting the last war, World War II tactics. They're using antiquated tactics. And ISIS, on the other hand, is using off-the-shelf technology as force multipliers. So I'll give you an example. You're probably seeing on the screen there some drone footage that was filmed by ISIS of them directing their suicide bombers into high concentrations of Iraqi troops. And for that reason, Iraqi troops have had over 2,000 men killed just in the month of November. And so for such an overwhelming force, 100,000 troops, to be essentially, being fought to a standstill by only 5,000 zealots inside of Mosul, obviously the Iraqi army is doing something wrong. We are providing advice and assistance. There are over 9,000 troops, U.S. troops in Iraq right now, but they're not fighting. They're in the rear, and they're sort of advising by remote control. So we're giving them support from the air and that sort of thing. But obviously, it's kind of hard to drop bombs from the air if there's still 700,000 civilians living in Mosul. And that's part of the problem.
Chuck, what's your best assessment of ISIS leadership inside Mosul? Are they even there? Because ISIS is still, and I believe, directing attacks throughout Europe. And of course, the mainstream media wants to call these lone wolf attacks here in the United States, but I believe they're being directed as well by ISIS leaders, even if it's over the internet. Are they in Mosul and able to focus on that war that's going on, or are they outside someplace else?
Grant, I would guess that the actual leadership of ISIS is no longer in Mosul. Mosul has been surrounded now, and so they're not able to get people in and out anymore. The guys that are there plan to die there, and they probably will. Unfortunately, the estimates now say it may take as long as 2018 for the Iraqi army to actually take Mosul. Nobody ever imagined that it would take that long. And so the problem is what we're going to do with ISIS. And even with under a Trump administration, if we really step up our attacks there, is we're going to drive ISIS underground. And so ISIS is not a fighting force so much as it is an ideology, and it's something we're going to be fighting for a long time. So it's going to take very firm resolve on the part of our next president to keep after them.
You know, some years ago when the Israelis were under almost constant terrorist attacks on a daily basis, they actually went proactive and pushed the terrorists underground, and the terrorists were more concerned about being on the run than they were about attacking, and it saved much of Israel for that. And I think that proactive approach is something we need to be doing as a nation.
Absolutely. And, you know, Grant, what we really need to do is try to drag Iraq kicking and screaming into the 21st century. We need to have leadership in the Pentagon that are willing to think outside the box. I mean, think about it. There's 30-something generals in Iraq right now in this advise and assist role. How many of them would you imagine have a Facebook account or a Twitter account? And the reason I say that is because ISIS right now is winning in the media battle space. And that's how they're influencing people around the world to commit atrocities in their name. They're winning in the media battle space. And we've got leadership in the Pentagon that doesn't even understand the media battle space. We've got to get out of our antiquated thinking and stop thinking with tanks and armored personnel carriers and start thinking with cyber and being willing to do whatever it takes to stop these people.
You know, Chuck, hopefully with a Trump presidency, certainly he knows how to communicate. Maybe that will all change. Hey, my man, Happy New Year to you. Great work as always. Enjoy your time there in South Carolina.
All right.
Thanks,
Good
Chuck.
talking to you, Grant.
Chuck Holton, veteran Army Ranger, great correspondent for us.